Welcome back to another episode of the Amateur Hour podcast. I am your host, Jacob, and it is a solo episode today. A topic I've wanted to cover for a little bit of time is in regards to the Phoenix Suns, who have been quite a surprise to start the season, but they've fallen off a little bit. They're at 7-6 right now. They're in a playoff spot, 7th seed in the West right now, obviously very early in the season, so can't look into that too much. Just coming off of a loss to the Sacramento Kings, a 4-point loss, 120-116 a couple days ago. Later today, they play the Pelicans, a very winnable game. But they have started a lot better than they would have been expected. 7-6, they were off. I think they were 7-4. They've lost to the Kings and the Celtics back to back. Not too shameful to lose to the Boston Celtics the way they're playing, but what I think is attributing to the success of a Phoenix Suns team who struggled a lot last season. They were one of the bottom seeds in the league, and it clearly was not working. Whatever system they were trying to implement, it was not working, because I remember the stat when they were 5-2 to start this season. Last season, it took them they were at 5-24 before they won 5 games. Last season they finished 19-63, which I believe was the NBA worst. It was the tie for second worst, and Knicks were the only team worse than them. So obviously a big step up so far. They've got to be happy with where they're at right now, and I think it's largely in part to the addition of Ricky Rubio in the offseason. And the Utah Jazz let Ricky Rubio walk. Understandably, because they got Mike Conley. They didn't need Ricky Rubio. And, Ricky Rubio is infamously known for being selected ahead of Steph Curry in that draft year. In fact, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who drafted Ricky Rubio, took 2 point guards before Steph Curry was taken. They had the 6th pick and they had the 7th pick, but they still opted to take 2 point guards that were not named Steph Curry. They took Ricky Rubio at the 6, and I'm just confirming who's at the 7. They had the Minnesota Timberwolves had the 5th and 6th pick, which they took Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn, who I've never heard of, other than when I'm talking about drafting him above Steph Curry. And at the 7th pick, the Golden State Warriors selected Steph Curry, and there's nothing that needs to be said about Steph Curry. But what Ricky Rubio has provided this season is some sort of a player who can lead the offense and not have to worry about stealing any offense off players like Devin Booker. So Ricky Rubio's come in. He's upped his assist by 2 more assists per game. Right now he's sitting at 8.1 assists per game. He's kept his output for points at 12, just over 12. He's at 12.5 last season. He's at 12.7. And it's allowed Devin Booker to completely focus on scoring the basketball and not as much of running the offense. His assists have dropped by about 1 assist per game for Booker. His points about the same, 25.4 points per game, but his efficiency is absolutely ridiculous. He's taking almost 3 less shots per game on the same amount of minutes per game, but he's shooting 53% from the field, 50% from 3, and 93.8% from the free throw line. He is shooting 53, 50, 93, which is absolutely absurd. And it's largely in part to Ricky Rubio, because it's very difficult to focus on offense, on being the creator and also being the primary scoring option. You have to focus so much, and it's a lot of mental fatigue to have to worry about how you're going to run the offense and get your team, in the ascendancy, and how you're going to score. But now Ricky Rubio alleviates all of that stress off Devin Booker being the creator. And Ricky Rubio, who is just simply the creator on offense, he's not been a prolific scorer at any point in his career, but he's been a good distributor and good at running the offense. Like, he's averaged 8 and up assists quite a few times in his career. In fact, he's averaged 9 assists 1 year in his career in his last season at Minnesota. But it wasn't really working for the Jazz, who needed more volume scoring, and that was really their problem. Especially last year in the playoffs when they played Houston, scoring the basketball was the problem because their defense is so good. But Ricky Rubio's not that. They didn't need him. But the Suns, who desperately needed a point guard to play off Devin Booker. And you can let Book go to town because he's so talented. But you get in Ricky Rubio, who can take those touches and just alleviate that fatigue. And all of a sudden, the Suns are playing much better, and they're very fun to watch. And in fact, Ricky Rubio is playing so well that his on-court plus-minus per 100 possessions is 7.5, plus 7.5. And Devin Booker, who was a minus 7.4 in the same category all of last season in his on-court per 100 possessions plus-minus, Devin Booker is now at plus 6.5. So I can see a clear correlation with Devin Booker's stats increasing with Ricky Rubio being there, because Devin Booker is just focusing on putting the ball in the basket, and he's doing it incredibly efficiently, like unbelievably efficiently. Like you talk all day about guys who are 50, 40, 90 and how impressive that is, but you have a guy like Devin Booker, 53, 50, 93. I don't necessarily think he's going to maintain that 50% from 3-point, but easily going to be above 40%, I think. I think he can keep his field goal percentage above 50. Like last season, he was 46.7 from the field, 32.6 from 3, 86 from the line. I can definitely see him maintaining his free throws. He's one of the best at it from the free throw line in the league. As far as his field goal percentage, he doesn't need to take as many bad shots because he doesn't have to create for himself as much. He can have other people help him out. I can see him keeping above 50, and in regards to the 3-point percentage, that is like, it's absurd the way he's shooting. I can't seem to see him keeping that. He's never been above 40% in his career, but I really think that would that help on offense, it's gonna be significantly better than in previous years. I mean, last year's 32.6. I easily see him 40%. And what's most shocking to me is the on-court per 100 possessions plus minus, because he's been way in the negatives for the first 4 years of his career, Devin Booker. And all of a sudden, plus 6.5 right now. It's very impressive. And I can see the Suns, I kind of wanted to talk about the Suns are the real deal. I don't necessarily think they're the real deal per se, quote unquote real deal. But I can see them being a team that can maybe put a bit of pressure on the playoff spots. I don't really see them keeping in the playoffs the way, Portland's kind of dropped out of the race right now. The Warriors aren't in the race. There are 5 clear dominant teams in the West, being the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Clippers, and the Jazz. But the Mavericks look like they're going to be in a playoff spot the way Luka Doncic is playing. We talked about Luka Doncic in yesterday's episode, if you want to go check that out. I can see the Kings pushing for that. I had the Kings in my 8th seed at the start of the season. I'm going to stick with that. I think they can keep that up. Timberwolves maybe can be involved. Maybe the Spurs will steady the ship. Maybe the Trailblazers will steady the ship. But honestly, the Suns can really push. Now that I'm looking at it, the Suns can really push for that late seed in the West. I don't think they'll do any damage in the playoffs. And then, if you ask me right now, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. There's a lot of basketball left to be played this season. But I can see the Suns having a good year for them, improving. They've been like kind of the dumpster of the NBA for years and years and years. Like they've been bottom seed in the West, like how many years in a row? 3 years at least. I'm just looking at it right now. So yeah. 3 years in a row they've been the bottom seed, and the year before that there was the second bottom seed. Like it's not been good since they drafted Devin Booker. I mean, they typically don't draft very well, but they seemingly have done very well in drafting Devin Booker. And I think the DeAndre Ayton pick is also a very good pick at number 1. I mean, obviously you look at it now, you could have gone for a Doncic or a Trae Young, but Ayton is kind of what they needed. They need that big, and I think Ayton's going to turn into a bit of a star in the NBA. I really like DeAndre Ayton's game. Just needs to get a little bit better on defense, but super athletic for his size at 7'1". I think that was a good pick when he's back from that suspension. They just even think about that now. They're doing all this without DeAndre Ayton. They have Aaron Ice in his Baines running the center right now, and Aaron Baines has been truly living up to the Ice in his Baines nickname, because He's balling at 14.5 points per game right now, 56% shooting. Obviously, he's getting a lot of minutes because of the lack of the DeAndre Ayton presence, but way above his career average for Aaron Baines. I can see him, honestly, at this rate, you could put him in maybe the discussion for an MIP candidacy, because that's a huge jump. And if you can maintain that even when DeAndre Ayton's back, who knows? But I attribute the Suns' success this season to Ricky Rubio, and I it's the Ricky Rubio effect that is making Devin Booker play much better, and it's making the Suns play much better. And not a lot of people may agree with that. Like, I was pretty critical of Ricky Rubio when he's on the Utah Jazz, but he just wasn't really fitting that system. But in this system, the Suns are fun to watch. Ricky Rubio's playing well. Happy for Ricky Rubio to be excelling in a role like this, because honestly, that some people rated it as one of the worst signings in the offseason, but I completely disagree, because it was a great move for the Suns. And we'll wrap up that episode. That is the Ricky Rubio effect. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Amateur Hour podcast. Come back soon for more daily content.